recording.
For the recording, if I may.
Oh, yes. Excellent. And do we want to? Okay. Okay, so thank you, and thanks for coming out on a Saturday. I know it's hard to get here. My spouse was going to come, and then he ditched me. So my name is Rachel. Somehow over the summer, I became an organizer. I don't know how that happened. With these amazing human beings that you get to see around the room today. So I have been an educator for 10 years here in Colorado, and I am here to be your MC today. And today it's just us. We did not invite Gabe intentionally because he's shown us through his vote and his doubling down about how excited he is on this reconciliation bill, also known as the Big Beautiful Bill, that he is not voting for the folks here in the 8th. So today we're sharing with you some of the worst parts of this bill through our speakers and these facts that I will sprinkle through. And at the end of our speaker session, we are going to have a chance for you to ask questions. I will let whoever on the panel wants to answer those questions and who it seems to be, okay, whoever seems to be the right human to answer that, they're going to pass out some cards and some pencils to you. So if you have questions during the time that we're speaking, feel free to write that down. If you want to remain anonymous, don't put your name. If you want me to say your name and it's a unique question, I will say who asked. And I am an educator, so I can read all kinds of writing. So let's get to the heavy stuff. 67,000 humans in Adams County will lose Medicaid, and that doesn't include Well, which is where I live. $1.2 billion shortfall in our Colorado budget due to this. And I work in public education, and that hits me. There will be a 28% increase in Connect for Colorado, which are our ACA programs and premiums, and 600,000 humans in the 8th district will lose their SNAP. I talked to one of my students as she was transitioning to college. She was homeless as she was my senior last year, and she started crying and she said, "Miss Bauer, how am I going to eat while I'm at college? They're taking my food away." And I said, "Shayla, I don't know, but I'm going to fight like hell so they don't." Our first speaker today will be Chris McLeod. He found himself as an organizer this summer, and he's going to speak on how words are being weaponized and how to reclaim our language to connect effectively with the people that you care about.
Thank you. Just real quick to kind of go along with what she was saying. The bill is delayed, and we want to make that very clear. It's very intentional. Most of the bad stuff happens after the midterm elections. You can see it up there in red. So we're here to discuss what this means. She's covered that very well. Things are coming out after the midterms, right? They're hoping that we all forget, right? We're here to make sure you don't, right? Don't forget. This stuff's going to happen. They just assume everybody's going to get all riled up in July when it got passed, and they're going to forget about it. Let's not forget about it. So how did it get passed? We've got some words that are being used and weaponized. Propaganda is kind of a word that's pretty loaded, but propaganda gets used by both sides, right? It's literally language that is used to drive a political or social point, right? They're very good at it. And I want to go through some phrases that have been misused to mislead. And we're going to cover efficiency, criminal as in terms of immigration, beautiful, MAGA, and tariff. So I'm going to go through these pretty quick. This deck will be on our website for you guys to download later. And when I get it up there, I'm going to have links to the definitions that I found and stuff. I'm not expecting you to take me at my word. So let's start with how do we combat the deceptive use, right? First of all, we got to get knowledge, right? Everybody says, oh, efficiency, and everybody thinks they know what efficiency means, but they don't, and so it's really easy to misuse it. We need to know the meanings so that we can just see how silly this is, right? This may allow us to educate a mind or two, or at least sow some doubt, right? We just want people to think the next time they get in to pull a lever or push a button or whatever we do in Colorado these days. I recommend we practice on good-hearted people that just kind of got suckered in. You don't really want to start on the hardcore MAGA folks until after you've practiced. But if you have, you'll be able to have this conversation. Get to Thanksgiving and say to your uncle, that one uncle, you keep using that word, I don't think you know what it means. So efficiency, let's start with that one. I like it because it's quantifiable. Dictionaries are dumb, sorry wife. The quality of property of being efficient, that's just like ridiculous. This one's the one that matters. The ratio of the effective or useful output to the total input of any system. Now this is something you can actually crunch numbers on, right? You can calculate it, it's testable, it becomes a fact, and we know that facts are not in good odor in Washington these days, but facts count. So let's talk about it. Your car gets 20 miles a gallon. You pay to get the engine tuned up, and now it's getting 22.5 miles a gallon. Once you've paid off, saved enough money to pay for the tune-up, you've got free money. This is efficiency, right? In this case, it's a 12% efficiency increase. And just remember this when people talk to you about them being efficient. Gains in efficiency require either increased output for the same cost or the same output for less cost. Okay, it's very straightforward. Oh, and it looks like I'm missing a slide. That's unfortunate. Oh, now I'm doing it really good. Let's see if it got buried. I did, I just got out of order, sorry. It's been a morning, that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, efficiency continued. This is Republican efficiency. Let's cut $1 billion for the National Park Service, no changes in operations, resulting in diminished access, reduced patron safety, and the degradation of historic parks, and we're gonna call it efficiency. So there's a new Dodge model car out, but also, yeah, SNAP, Medicaid, ACA. I just picked the National Park Service. It's something that you might have some run with because it's not as triggery for some people as Medicaid and things because, you know, part of this is we don't want those people to get free health care. This is the Doge car. It doesn't use any gas, but it also doesn't go anywhere. So this is kind of what they're doing. If you go in and you cut $1 billion and you cut, you know, a third of your staff in the National Park Service, you're basically pulling the engine out of the Park Service, right? So it doesn't serve a purpose anymore. This is not efficiency. This is cost cutting at best, vandalism at worst. But like I said, at least you can still sleep in it. Okay, we'll have to go back. Beautiful, adjective, having beauty, possessing qualities that give great pleasure, satisfaction to see, hear, all of that, right? We know about beauty. This one's kind of on the fence. I think we're kind of at a loggerhead where maybe we just have different beauty standards, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you're getting tax cuts right away, those tax cuts went into effect immediately, right? You think this is a beautiful thing. If you're having all of your social services pulled away, it's not beautiful. But that last line, I think there's a good chance that people losing services is seen as beautiful by some. And what we've been talking about in my circles is the cruelty is a feature, not a bug in what they're doing. MAGA, it's an oxymoron. And yes, that's intentional. Right-wing political movement that likes 1950s America, right? We won the war, we were a global power, women and minorities knew their place, and taxes were low, right? Wrong. Top rate in 1957 for making $200,000 a year was 91%, okay? That money allowed America to be great. It let us build the interstate system, go to the moon, massive amounts of science and technology R&D, and unfortunately also the Cold War. But those things were all fundable because they were actually taxing rich people, okay? So that is something that we need to point out, that things are different than they were in the 1950s. We're not taxing people, and therefore we're not able to support people. And then finally, tariff. It is a tax levied upon goods as they cross national boundaries, okay? You're never gonna catch a Republican saying this is a tax, it's a tax, okay? They're allergic to taxes, but this is a tax. It is an import tax, and it is one tax the administration loves. My concern with taxes is they're incredibly regressive. So at least as far as income taxes go, you have a bracket where somebody that's hardly making any money pays a lesser percentage. Tariffs hit everybody the same. And if you're spending 100%, or if you're even going into debt year over year just to survive, it's going to hit you the worst. Okay, so I heard NPR start calling these import taxes, and I think we ought to start calling them import taxes. Bring that up at family gatherings and see who bristles, but it's 100% their taxes. And then just a quick summary, be a critical thinker when you hear a word, right? We get just bombarded with these words that come out. That big, beautiful bill, Frank and I actually refuse to say that. We call it the reconciliation bill, or we call it other bad things too. So, you know, this is propaganda. This is doublespeak. Don't be afraid to engage others now that you have a little bit better idea of what's going on. Realize we'll never be able to convince everybody, but we only need to convince 2,450 District 8 voters. Gabe won by 2,449. Thank you.
Yeah, I always tell my husband, I learned something. I'm a big TikToker. I don't have a huge following, but one thing I did learn was that a third of the people living in the 13 colonies wanted the king. So I figure we just need the other 2/3 on our side, right? Because a third of people didn't want to be this way anyways. So now it's funny because when this speaker came up, I was like, I know who you are because I've heard you on the radio. We are welcoming Joel Edelstein. Joel, I asked him and I still got it wrong because I can't get the right one in my head. Joel is going to be sharing about the incredible loss of government employees and the long-term impacts on American citizens. Joel enjoyed teaching political science at CU Denver. I always tell people online if they're getting something wrong that they got their political science credit in high school through credit recovery. So we did that at CU Denver, focusing on Latin America, economic development, Central America, and Cuba. He also served at UCD for brief periods as political science department chair, interim dean of the graduate school. He has contributed to KGNU, an independent nonprofit community radio, as a volunteer producer of public affairs programming, on staff as the director of the News and Public Affairs, and as a member of its board of directors. Let's give Joel a warm welcome.
Oh, thank you. Well, the Trump administration is on track to reduce the level of federal employment by 300,000 by the end of this year. And that 300,000, they do not anticipate there are going to be a lot more cuts after that. But that 300,000, and that's a lot of people, that is 12.5% of the 4.4 million federal employees. So that means 1 out of 8 federal employees will not be working for the federal government come January 1st. And they're all over the lot. We know, we've heard about the major areas of cut, but we'd spend all of the next hour at least just listing the various agencies that are affected. So I'm not going to try to do that because we don't have much time, but it's not difficult for you to just Google federal government employment cuts and get large lists. Well, if you visit a government agency, what are you going to see? In front of you, there are going to be some staff who are approaching other staff to talk with them. A couple of people appear to be laughing at a joke. Several are focused on their screens and others are talking on the phone.
Okay.
Which ones are not trying to do their job? I mean, 1 out of 8 is not doing the job, is taking your tax money and not doing a worthwhile job. But which one? I mean, there's the big guy in the White House. He's out at that office and he wants to run up and grab one of these federal employees by the neck and say, "You're fired." He loves to do that. But which one? Is it the one who's on the phone? Are they just kind of arranging their weekend plans? Is it somebody looking at their screen? Are they buying garden supplies? Are they actually doing the job for which we are paying them? How do you find out? And in fact, evaluating the performance of an employee is one of the most important things that an enterprise can do. I mean, how do you know if you're effective if you don't know really what your employees are doing? And DOGE did not make any effort at all to figure out who were the right people to fire. They really went by ideology. And their ideology is that federal government employees don't do their work. They are a waste. And it's hard to believe that, but when you're going by an ideology and not by evidence, you will believe anything. And so we get some of the top people who are doing research on health and human services, and they're fired. When you look at why we are leaders in the world, and America is the leader in many areas that are areas we can be proud of. All right, we're leaders in some areas we're not proud of, but certainly in terms of the most aggressive work in understanding disease is done by us. Now, not everybody who comes and works for the federal government is an American. Our healthcare system and the research is so good that people come, the best from the rest of the world, they come to work here. Well, that's what DOGE was after. They're firing the people who are the dynamic researchers in health and human services. The person who had 25 years coordinating the flood warnings in Texas, there were over 100 people who died, including the kids at that camp. That person was fired. And it didn't matter that he had a key role to play. But these firings don't pay attention to whether the particular agency, and I'm thinking now that AID, we have been responsible for saving the lives of millions of people. And some of those programs, you might be surprised to learn, were initiated by Republicans. I mean, some of the work that's been done has gone beyond ideology, but ideology said they cannot be. Thank you. And there are other areas too. A lot of small business people, what they're worried about is, will my employees be with me next year? What's my retention rate? How much does it cost to identify an employee who's going to be good and then train them when you bring them on board? And we've seen many of the cuts that were made have been reversed, but the agency didn't know how to get in touch with them. I mean, they were just gone. So I've got to stop. But all of this is to say that we have generations that it's going to take to undo the damage to the services that make America a great place to live. And how that's going to happen, the first thing we have to do is to stop what's going on now and recognize that service is what government does. And just one other thing, you will hear people saying, I wish the government were run like a business. Well, if the government were run like a business, you cannot deliver mail in Ward, Colorado without losing money. It's impossible. And in fact, that's what happens if you run the government like a business. The first thing the government needs to do is to do this, give the services that we need and it provides. And that's not happening under the current administration. And if we care for not just ourselves, but for our kids and our grandkids, then we've got to turn this around as quickly as we can. And 2026 is a good time to really make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel. I have been told to move it along, Bauer. So I'm going to do my best to be quick. So many people in our state and our country, our state, and our county will be losing their health care due to this bill. I've heard many, just like Chris said, say that for this administration, cruelty is not an accident, it's a feature. Today, we have Mrs. Rebecca Miller Vogul to share the most damning parts of this bill. Mrs. Miller Vogul is a nurse, a disability rights advocate, and a medical writer. Let's welcome her.
Thanks very much for having me. I just want a quick reminder that this is a moral issue. This is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is a moral issue. Gandhi has been attributed with the quote that the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. And H.R. 1 is an abomination. It's immoral. Taking SNAP benefits that feed our elderly and our kids to go ahead and fund ICE in the 6 concentration camps that are coming here to Colorado, fabulous. We are going to have an extreme amount of people who are going to become uninsured. And I'm going to do my best to stay to my 7 minutes. Might have to forego the paper, and if anyone saw me speak at Oxfam, they know what happens when I go off the paper. But I will try to cover what is happening with H.R. 1. But first, I'm going to call out old Gabe Evans really quick because he voted for this bill and he's proud of it. To quote this, I almost said a bad word. Only people who deserve to be on Medicaid will keep their benefits. And we talked about linguistics earlier with our first speaker, and I'd like to focus on the word deserve. Deserve. What poor people deserve, what Black people deserve, what women deserve, what refugees deserve. This dialogue harkens back to Reconstruction, when taxes were taken from the white people to make the hospitals for the Black people, and that became socialism. Then here comes the cowboy mystique and rugged individualism and redlining and segregation. And remember, we women could not even have a bank account of our own until the 1970s. I was born in 1970. Imagine that. We grew over the years with the New Deal, the Civil Rights era, and now we're sliding backward courtesy of HR 1. And yes, that is why I am dressed like a 1950s nurse. Not be mincing words here. This is a direct attack on women. Sorry, guys, but you know, just have a seat for a second. Let me just vent about this for a second, because it is a direct attack on women, especially women of color. Especially women, single women, and women-centered households. The HR 1 comes directly for us. And so because I'm a Democrat, I love statistics, and I love flowcharts, and I love all the things. But instead, in order to entertain you, I'm gonna go ahead and create a scenario. And if I go over time, I apologize. I'm so sorry in advance.
Right ahead.
We're gonna create a person named Angela. I named her after my cat. She's 26 years old. She is off her parents' insurance. She's still completing her degree with 2 years to go. She works as a bartender 30 hours a week and attends classes 20 hours a week. Angela wants to be a social worker. She knows she needs to get her master's degree to get that job. She's taking 12 credit hours a semester because she's smart. Has a Pell Grant and student loans, and her job varies according to business levels. She lives with her longtime boyfriend. They live near campus, and her parents live in unincorporated Adams County. She is insured on the ACA exchange because her employer benefits are for full-time employees and her hours vary. Keep this in mind. And I will be asking questions about Angela, and if you guys are too chicken to pop out with an answer, I'm going to ask my husband. He's in the second row. It's right there. All right, good old HR1. Guess what they eliminated? It's called the Premium Tax Credit Enhancement. What is that exactly? So what that is that it didn't even matter what kind of income level you had. If you were not able to have health insurance through your employer, by the way, we're the only industrialized nation that doesn't have socialized health care, and Bernie is right. Okay, that we have to rely on our employers in order to give us health care. Well, some of our employers have like the crappiest health care in the whole wide world. And it costs a lot of money. Oh, I see someone waving in the back. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yay! Yes, we have one.
copay.
I'm raising my hand too.
$8,000.
I am luckily with my husband's insurance because mine's absolutely garbage, and I work in healthcare. Go figure, right?
$8,000.
So you go on the ACA exchange. Well, in order to help people actually afford that premium, there is that tax credit, which helps people actually afford the big fat premium that they pay. And guess what? GOP, thanks Gabe, decided to go ahead and make that go away. So what does this mean? It means that the average premium is going to increase by 28%. In the Western Slope, we're looking at 38%. And the best part is that young adults with lower incomes can see premium cost increases of over 500%. 500%. Think about something that you buy. You bought a Hershey bar at the 7-Eleven for $1. Now it's 500% more. Are you going to eat it? Are you going to eat it? Probably not. All right, so now, here's my stats, because I'm a Democrat and I love stats. The uninsured rate in 2023 was 4.6% covering, remember this number, 265,000 Coloradoans. Our projected loss from the Kaiser Family Foundation, I'm not making this up, is going to be between 140,000 and 240,000 Coloradoans become uninsured. Guys, we just lost all our gains. I'm a little upset. Angela discovers that her plan is too expensive now to maintain. She decides to risk it and be uninsured. She takes out the health insurance plan at her school and pays for it with her student loans. It allows her to use the student health clinic, which is limited in services. How many of us use the student health clinic in college? And how many of us got Sudafed as, you know, the cure to everything, right? Okay. Did I push the chair? Okay. Sometimes I just have no idea about my body habitus and things just move. All right, guys, so on July 1st, 2026, students will be ineligible for a Pell Grant if they receive grants totaling the student's cost of attendance or higher from non-federal grants, institutional aid, state aid, that's the Colorado grant, and private grants. Angela has now been informed by student aid that she lost her Pell Grant. And since she has so many scholarships, this hits her hard. She relied on her refund to pay for her books and supplies. Her student loans paid for her insurance and helped her live. How many of us went to college? We counted on that refund. How many of us had to buy that stupid textbook that cost $150 and we only looked at 4 pages of it? I still have my med-surg book. It has duct tape on it because, you know, that was hard. I kept it. Guess what? The big bogus billionaire bill. I know I'm over time, but 2 minutes? I can't finish in 2 minutes. I'm just letting you know. We can always try to fix this. All right. That is true. That is true. I don't want to keep you in suspense, but guess what HR1 does? It adopts an earning-based accountability standard. Under the standard, undergraduate programs will lose eligibility for student loans if the graduate's median, remember median back in high school, median earnings fall below those of similarly aged working adults with only a high school diploma or bachelor's degree, depending on the program type. Median is less than average for those of you who forgot. Angela is into her fall term when she discovers a bill on her portal. Her student loans were rescinded. It says entry-level BSWs make a lower wage compared to the cost of her program and other 26-year-old graduates. She decides she has to drop out of school.
So
this is happening now. And I am not making this up. It happened to my niece. I'm getting upset.
I will find that girl.
I feel like my blood pressure is going up.
A little darker than yours.
Before she does, she visits the health center for a wellness visit and renew her birth control pills. She's felt exhausted. At this visit, she discovers she's pregnant. She decides to see her regular provider at Planned Parenthood to confirm. She pays for the appointment out of pocket, receives abortion counseling. The ultrasound costs $120 out of pocket, and chemical abortion is at $650. Her provider offers her early prenatal care as well. Angela weighs her decision. And now here we come to my favorite part, defunding Planned Parenthood. We have a court injunction in place. It's expiring, you guys. And guess what? We all know this because we're smart people in here. Is that never ever in the history of ever, has Medicaid ever paid for an abortion except for the big three: rape, incest, health of the mother.
Samano.
Did you know that Planned Parenthood, all the services combined, only 3% are abortion care across the country? 3%, and they're going to defund it because, oh my God, they might actually want to take control of their own reproductive health. Fabulous. Planned Parenthood offers way more than that: cancer screenings, breast cancer screenings. They offer the early prenatal care. They also offer birth control pills, and men go there too. Okay, back to Angela. Angela and her boyfriend decide they want to become parents. Angela knows it'll impact her life, but thinks she's going to finish her degree someday. So she signs up for the Medicaid ACA expansion so she can start seeing her provider for prenatal care immediately. But wait, she's informed she has to wait for approval. Her prenatal care will only be covered for 1 month prior to approval. She has no choice but to wait. So here's the deal, you guys. It's like it used to be called a look back with Medicaid. You can sign up for Medicaid services and you can see your provider for 3 months. It takes about 3 months to get your Medicaid application approved. We used to do the look back. Now, the look back is only 1 month for people who are our ACA Medicaid expansion clients, and 2 months for traditional Medicaid, which is income-based. That means she doesn't get prenatal care. That's the impact. This is a slippery slope. Would you like me to do part 2 later after? All right, chew on that for a second. We'll pick up at the story of Angela and her lack of prenatal care and how that impacts her health. It's your turn. Oh, wait, it's your turn.
I'll introduce him. And I'll get you a round of applause because, yeah, that's important to hear. Oops. Thank you, Rebecca.
Oops.
I can't do it either.
Oh,
I'm not
I
good
did it
on
again.
time either. So next we're gonna, we have a community organizer, Frank, and I forgot to ask how to say his last name. Konecny, and he's gonna be sharing with us the incredible cruel cuts to our SNAP program and why nutrition assistance matters to 600,000 Colorado families, and how those are going to ripple and cripple our neighbors.
Do this?
And Frank, only one person can go over long today, and that was Rebecca.
All right.
I'll speak really fast so we have all the time we need to get back to Rebecca's story. Thank you. Good morning, or good afternoon. I want to start off with something I do every time I protest, every time I speak, every time I attend a protest. I recite this poem by Reverend Martin Omler, because it truly drives home to me the condition that our government and the Trump regime is putting us in. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one to speak for me. That drives home to me that in silence there is acceptance to what is happening. I refuse to be silent. We as a group today are committed to not being silent. And to quote John Lewis, trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. We are experiencing something that is historically as important as the civil rights movement. And I pray to God, as I believe God, that I have a right to believe, that I hope it doesn't come to that,
Okay, I'll do that too.
but it may. Okay, I was asked to speak about SNAP requirements being changed by the big beautiful bill. I had not done any research on this, so it's been very informative to me to have done it. I have been very fortunate in my life. I have never had to apply for SNAP benefits, and for that I am truly grateful. Currently, this is from an executive meeting summary from July 30, 2025. There are 334 cases, 590 cases of SNAP benefits in this country, or in this state. 50% are children, 10% are elderly, 15% have disabilities. We have a monthly budget of $123 million with a yearly budget of $1.48 billion. As Chris mentioned earlier, this bill was really built on a staggered implementation idea so we would forget. Well, I'm not going to forget. Non-citizens lose their right to receive SNAP benefits on October of this year. Added work requirements are going to begin in October of this year. The error period begins between October 25th and October 26th, and there is a match funding cut that begins in October 22nd or 26th, and then the state share of payment starts in October of 27th. The work requirement will increase the number of people that are required to work in this state by 13%, or 81,000 people. The non-citizens, and this is what really jerks me around, because Gabe Evans screams this in all his letters that he sends me, we're getting rid of the non-immigrants, non-citizens. They're bleeding the system. 3,950 people get SNAP benefits, less than 1% of the cases in the state. He is a liar. It's going to affect 40,000 individuals and households and 74,000 individuals with these work increases. They cut the SNAP aid education portion of SNAP. That's going to add $6 million to the budget of the state. Well, most poor people, or if you're in need of benefits like this, you may need some education so you can learn how to replace proteins or vegetables or fruit. How do you learn to do that if you have never been taught to do it? $6 million loss to the state. The share cost administration starts in October of 26, and originally they paid for 50% of the administration costs to run the SNAP program. They're reducing it to $25 million, or 25%, and it's going to cost the state $50 million a year. Okay, the error rate. This is something I never heard of. Colorado's share error rate is 9.97%, and that's based on how many mistakes are made in the process of processing claims and processing invoices and delivering the money to the people that need it. At that 9.797%, 10% error rate, and the federal government controls that. So hell, they might say it's 20% next year. They might say it's 30% because that's what we're going to do. That's what we want to do. It's going to cost $120 to $140 million a year to do this. In summary, right now we heard, I was at a meeting on Monday, that the state has a $1.3 to $1.4 billion deficit going in. They're trying to correct it, all right? They're pulling out all the stops. Well, I educated myself today because I'm tired of not knowing what I'm talking about, and I like to talk facts and information. This might be a novel idea. How about if we fix Tabor? I never really understood what Tabor does or how it does it. Tabor is based on the current inflation rate plus the current population rate increase. Right now it's 3.7%. Our state budget cannot increase more than 3.7%, or our revenues cannot increase more than 3.7%. Or if they do, we have to return that money back to the people. Well, nothing is going up at 3.7%. They need to make it so that each individual segment of the process is figured out and then divided by that number of factors to get an actual inflation rate that is usable. Thank you.
Would you give Jennifer the mic? Give Jennifer the mic.
The little thing.
Yeah, not to forget that I work in education. I don't know who knows this. Did you know that we feed all Colorado children breakfast and lunch during the school year? Yay, Colorado. Guess what they're talking about cutting? Food to kids. So, the implications of this bill keep growing and growing, okay? So I am going to introduce our last speaker with my glasses. So now we welcome Jennifer Samano. Jennifer is a community organizer and a civil rights advocate living here in Denver. She works with the ACLU, and she is a campaign organizer for Planned Parenthood of the Rockies. I was told to cut it short, so everything else
good.
you can say.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me, and lots of familiar faces. No, I'm just kidding. Hi to all the people I saw at the rally yesterday and protests, and thank you all again for having us out in your district. And I'm also glad you didn't finish that bio because that is from 2017. I really need to update the website. However, you know, there's other work to be done and we love our privacy. So anyway, more importantly, I am here to talk about what you all probably have, especially this room, has a decent idea about. So I will also try and be brief to leave it for questions as best as I can answer. I will also give you my standard, I am not an attorney myself, I just get to work with the coolest ones. I am our advocacy director at ACLU of Colorado, that's obviously the state affiliate. I have been with ACLU for almost 8 years now. And our advocacy team does all of the work that isn't litigation or lobbying. So we do the rest. And right now, that means court of public opinion, which is our best shot. Not that we pick one, we use all of the tools, of course. Okay, now I'll really talk about immigration. So from our perspective as an organization and an institution for probably since almost a year ago, we have been planning for scenarios like this. Not that that gives us the answers. We just saw the through lines that we're all seeing now as well, that they didn't have the money to actually match the demands and all the theatering about mass deportations. Not that they're not doing harm before this bill, don't get me wrong, but the politics of it all, of saying we're gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. So we knew that there would be some peak point where they had to choose or find a way to actually fund this machine. That's what HR 1, I won't call it the other name, the bill we're talking about. That's what HR 1, which is also a basic reconciliation bill, the one bill they have to pass every year that they did really good branding on, hate to admit. Anyway, so HR 1, the real, yes, it is giving money to people, billionaires, yes. It is gutting our healthcare so that A, it's harder for us to unite and resist, and B, again, it's more profitable for a certain few. But also, and again, what we are particularly focused on is that this is the bill to fuel said deportation machine that was this evil shadow puppet that has become real, or becoming real, but we're not there yet. So yes, HR 1, I believe, and again, you all probably know this, increased the ICE as a department through funding and all like the sub bullets of that funding, how it's going to be used by 264%. And as part of that, again, sorry, preaching to the choir, we are seeing this big rush of potential detention sites being built across the country, but especially here in, well, not especially, but what we care about is in Colorado. Our legal team, along with our ACLU national legal folks, have been doing FOIA requests to ICE, the Freedom of Records request, basically. They sent those in February to start sussing this out. They weren't getting a response from ICE, of course, so we took a judicial action. It wasn't a full-on litigation. It was just like a step in the process, which the ruling was in our favor. We got the information from FOIA and found, I think it's, again, about 6 sites potentially being considered in Colorado. This includes in Hudson, in Walsenburg, which I know a bunch of activists went to last weekend, Brad, and one of the Ute territories, maybe a couple in Colorado Springs, La Junta. Anyway, this is what we were finding out, and the record showed this was from an RFP process or a request for proposals. So ICE put that out, and these companies like Core Civic, Geo, the Baptiste Group, all from again what we could get a little peek into. What that doesn't tell us is where they are now, because that information is almost like looking at the stars. We captured it from, excuse me, February. And so right now it's to start putting the pressure on, even without the full information, hence what, most importantly, what a lot of you do based on what I know about you. Stop. 2 minutes? Are you sure? I could stop after this thought. Okay. Okay, I don't know. I could just keep going. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. So, oh yeah. So right now is about, again, looking at Walsenburg. So many great, all of those examples of what has been going on in terms of rapid response work, groups like this, Indivisibles, the subgroups responding, people going to the courts, immigration courts, and sitting with people who are in court, and like all of that is key, still happening, and now we're adding the layer of demonstrations specific to detention in Colorado, and at the same time working to figure out where we can find more information, formally, informally, on where the process is actually right now. What does a request for a proposal mean? I don't know if you've ever done them yourselves. They really can mean nothing. But based on what we're hearing from various people and such, they're still moving forward. But then when we're looking too at other states, what we're starting to see is that the federal government is saying that this is an emergency, so they're just not even touching the state and local processes, the really boring basic ones about zoning, inspections, changing the level or status of a building based on its usage. And then of course it's resource usage, and especially here in Colorado, water, which I might talk about. Even though that's not traditionally our lane, but it's not a traditional time. Sorry. Yeah, so what we're finding is that, especially I think in Leavenworth or Levittown, Kansas is probably the best example of this to me, just in my side questing. Again, finding out the government or the federal government wasn't going through any of the city or state processes. This is Kansas example to illustrate. They did a lawsuit. When they found that out, the mayor joined a lawsuit against the company, the private company, saying that they didn't follow these processes. And so what happened was the judge there gave an injunction, so they couldn't fill the facility. But on their PR side, they're still like, we're hiring, we're gonna fill this up, but they still can't. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jennifer. There have been cards that have gone around. If you have one that has a question, oh, I was asked to also tell you that we are gonna go about to 1:15. If you have the time in your day to stay with us, we'd love you to stay. And I don't want to speak for our speakers, but if you can stay till 1:30, we've got this room till 1:30. Give a wave of hand if somebody has a specific question that we don't get to. On our speakers, can you wave to the audience if you could stay till 1:30? If you can't, that's okay.
There's a patio as well.
Yes, so, and there's water, yes. If you are thirsty, Stephanie is in the back and she can get you some water. That's what I wanted to say. I would like all of my teammates to stand and wave to you. If you have worked today through whenever you joined us on this Voices of the Eighth, please wave to the audience. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't know each other until May. If you like what happened here today and you want to be a part of this, none of us bite. We all come from different places. Some of us have lots more, time in our schedules to meet, but we typically meet on Tuesday evenings at 7 o'clock via the interwebs, because isn't it great? So if you want to join us, tap any one of us who you've seen here wave to you, and we would love to have you. This takes a village. Everything that these folks have said didn't happen overnight. It's not going to clean up overnight. And my favorite quote is, well, somebody should do something about this. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You are a somebody. All right? Your first step was coming here. You don't have to get involved as we do, but we'd love to keep seeing you at these events. And you can hop onto our meeting every night or every Tuesday, or you can just peep in our Signal chat. And because we don't have, we're not part of NSA, we can all have a Signal chat. All right, questions. If you have a question, that's great. Paula. Where are you, Paula? Hey, guess what? I just answered your question. What do we do next? Right? This is it. 90 seconds. She asked for 90 seconds. Yes, yep. I'm going to hold it because I'm your Vanna White.
Thanks. My name is Paula. I'm here. I'm a PCP. That means a precinct organizer. I'm from Firestone. Everybody, every little place, every neighborhood needs one. Everybody who tells you I'm not political, they are lying because this is all political. Every book that's banned, every class that's canceled in your students' school. Everything is political. It does take a village. And I watched her say, do something, and we all sat around, all my neighbors for a long time said, what the heck are we gonna do? So, this is what we're doing, and I'm just gonna tell you real fast. You can be a precinct organizer. I didn't do that because I like politics. I don't even like politicians. I did it because I'm mad. I'm angry. And I still read this really great book. Like this one, on tyranny. Somebody has to stand out. It's easy to follow along. It can feel strange. I'm shaking right now. But you gotta do something different. And when you stand up and do something different, you give courage to somebody else and they will come along. There's people here with protest signs. You can do that. There's people here wearing ACLU shirts. There's a book on chapter here. Donate to good causes. And I'm gonna put this back there. I got buttons, I got these. I'm an LGBTQ person. I don't need you to wave a pride flag or wear one like a cape. I need you to wear a button when you go to the store. I need you to put on a bracelet so when I'm in trouble I can fight. That's all. we won't go this. Lastly, I'm here because we are terrified for our neighbors. They are being kidnapped and trafficked, and we don't know where they're going. These are put out by our friends from the Boulder County Downs, and I have a whole bunch back there. What I'd like you to do, take some of these with you. Take a stack, put them in your pocket, put them in your